Good evening. I'm John Bailey, and this is People to be Heard, the program where people who have something to say have their say. Tonight, you've got the Democratic candidates for Common Council this fall. Nadine Hunt Robinson, I'm on the left, running for a second four-year term.
Yes.
Oh, I got that right. And Victoria Presser on the far right, and for the first time candidate for the council, and Jennifer Puja, who is the Labor Council Director for the Westchester Central Body AFL-CIO in real life, and you are running for council for the first time. And Ms. Presser, I'm sorry about you in public relations for the Scarsdale School District.
Yes, I'm the Public Information Officer.
Yes, yes, that's what we like to call it. Right, public information, right. And first of all, let's start things off with the two newcomers, Ms. Puja and Ms. Presser. Why do you want to run for the Common Council? What do you bring? And hope to bring to it.
The reason I am running for Common Council is love. I love White Plains. I have loved White Plains since I moved to Battle Hill 38 years ago. I've lived in White Plains long enough to go through a couple of name changes. When I first was here, I had my maiden name, Vicky Free, and now I'm Vicky or Victoria Presser. I love the vibrancy of White Plains. I love its diversity. I love its cultural life. I love its educational institutions and its variety of other organizations and institutions that help make this a vibrant community. And I would love to have the opportunity to help White Plains be the best possible White Plains it can be.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that sounds great. And you, Ms. Puja?
I'm running for Common Council because for so long I've encouraged others to take part in their communities and to take action and to have a seat at the table. And I think it's important that whether you are running for school board or city council or otherwise, to be a voice for your community and for residents and to give back to your community is something that's very attractive and appealing to me. So I love living, working, and raising a family in White Plains, and I would love the opportunity to be a voice for all, not just some, in White Plains. So that was really the reason why I took this chance.
Right. Now, Nadine Hunt Robinson, you are already a councilwoman. You've been on the council since 2014, and you are running for your second four-year term. Why do you want to continue in this very high-stress job?
I love it. I love what I'm doing. I came from a spirit of volunteerism in White Plains, and I wanted to move from being a volunteer servant to impacting public policy. In volunteerism, I worked with so many different groups, and I helped many groups, but I find that that effect increases exponentially when you actually have a seat in the room that's making government policies and laws. I am proud of the direction that we're going in. White Plains is a city that people want to live, work, play. And we want it to continue to be prosperous, but I also want to ensure that in that prosperity, we keep the doors of access and opportunity open to all.
Yes, well, as a matter of fact, you have been pivotal in the continuing French-American School of New York evaluation and very active advocating for affordable housing and minority issues. Are there any challenges for the city you want to bring to the forefront the next 4 years?
I think our biggest challenge continues to be the anemic sales tax, and that's something that's been an ongoing dialogue. I think that we're moving in the right direction in that we're drawing great companies here they're moving from nearby municipalities. You had Dannon, who brought 400 employees here. You had American Life Insurance Company, 500 employees that came here. You had a Japanese banking company, 230 employees. And when you ask them why they came, that's over 1,000 employees. And there are others, the brewery company, the chocolate company. It's because of the energy, the vitality, as Vicki talked about our city, the diversity in people, the diversity in homes, the diversity in business. It's a city that draws. I think one company put it, they love the energy. Their employees were excited about the energy. So I think continuing to draw people to our downtown will help with the sales tax issue. I'm also hopeful that when major projects like the pavilion come online, that will help with the foot traffic. I spoke to a small mom and pop guy. He owned a shop near 55 Bank Street that went up last year. And he said he was pleased because he was making money during the construction because they were dropping in to get breakfast there on their way. And when it opened up, people were stopping by to get their breakfast on the way to the train station. I want to see that expand exponentially.
So the dynamic works.
Yes.
At least on that individual.
And we want to expand it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, for the newcomers, neighborhoods are concerned about the encroachment of developments in neighborhoods. We currently have a number of approved developments that have not been started. Are you in favor of a continued development, you think? Big or small, or should we slow down?
Well, I would say that I'm in favor of responsible development. Whether it's big or small, I think a lot of factors weigh in. And I also think that as far as the neighborhoods are concerned, it's important that we keep an open ear to how neighborhoods and residents are directly impacted by the development, whether it is big or small. I also am personally in favor of when development is actually hiring local people. So if the people that live and work in White Plains can actually do both of those things, it's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
I wholeheartedly endorse what Jen has just said, and will add that being from a particular neighborhood, Battle Hill, which hasn't had a representative on the council since Pauline Oliver of blessed memory retired in 2001, that I understand that the neighborhoods, Battle Hill, Fisher Hill, there are so many wonderfully unique neighborhoods whose voices are important to be heard as we make our deliberations so that the city as a whole prospers, but also having some important input from the communities and neighborhoods that may or may not be impacted. We have to find the balance that works for everyone.
Yes, and how do you feel about that?
Well, as you know, I've always been very ponderous when it comes to development. I'm never one to have a knee-jerk reaction to everything, and I think it's important to have an open mind and then to consider all the factors, the environmental factors, the impact on the neighborhood, the impact on traffic. There's so many factors, and as well, the hearings are important as well because there's insights that you get from those. So I try to keep an open mind, and when the hearing is closed, we'll make that decision. But that's my approach that I took when I came in 2014, was to keep an open mind.
Right. Well, you certainly did that. There is new zoning in place along Westchester Avenue, allowing residential developments on office parks, most notably the 1133 Westchester Robert Weish project. Now, are you receptive to this kind of development? Apartments being built in office parks that are floundering?
I've seen it happen in downtown. After 9/11, the lower Manhattan area took a hit, and there was a serious issue with respect to commercial retail space. People didn't want to live there. There was a question, would it bounce back? And I was intrigued by the fact of working down there for some time, that they were able to convert some of the buildings into residentials and create parks. And before you knew it, when Wall Street used to shut down at 6 o'clock and people would leave, you were now seeing families. And so I've seen the live-work phenomenon work, so to speak, no pun intended. And it can work at 1133, but again, the issue does become the concern with respect to the neighbors. It does become the environmental, the surface water on the site. They say they'd improve the drainage. You know, they're the first facility, and I send this as a warning out to those listening, those developers. They're putting solar on roofs, right? They planned that in.
It
And we've
would
been
be nice.
pushing,
Yes,
we've been
yeah.
pushing for
Yes.
that, and the viability has been questioned. So clearly there's a way to make it viable. So those are some of the factors that we'll be looking at, but I've seen it done in other areas.
Yeah. Is there a downside to development? Or do we need development to survive? Anyone want to take
There's
that?
always a downside.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's always things to be cautious about. But I think of a city as a living, breathing organism. And organisms need to grow. If they don't grow, they're not living. So
True.
it's something to think of on, kind of on the macro level, as an organism that does need to live, grow, and breathe, which would be our sustainability efforts and our preservation of our green spaces. Our green spaces are the lungs of our community. It is where we breathe. So that when you're thinking of a healthy organism, you're thinking of all these factors.
And you being from a labor background know the importance of development. And what is your feeling towards encouraging development with control and compromise?
So I think that as I go back to what I had said earlier about responsible development, that's where the responsibility factor comes in. Because when you had said, are there, any downsides to development? Of course there can be. I think that's when you have to actually weigh in those factors. So whether it's an environmental factor or impact on a neighborhood or zoning or what that development is going to bring back to this city, I think that's where you would have to weigh and see where that balance is. And I think that's where you can actually decide whether or not it would be a positive or negative impact on our city.
And I would add, John,
Yes.
that part of our role in the city as council members, the various boards and commissions, is to mitigate against such downside.
There's that word
and
again.
to plan. I mean,
Yes.
and it's an important part of that's what we do. We look at ways of balancing the interests as City of White Plains as a whole, and in mitigating. I mean, one of the things that, for a good example was 55 Bank Street. A concern of development is the infrastructure. And there was an issue with respect to, well, it looked like there wasn't going to be an issue with our sewage pipes. They were in very good shape. There wasn't going to create a demand. But you know what? We still were able to basically charge them an amount that we could put aside for a fund so that when we do have attacks on our infrastructure, we've earmarked it from the particular developers that are going up. We're doing the same thing with parks. We're earmarking an amount for parks so maybe we can develop or improve our parks in other areas. We just got $1.2 million from another developer with respect to the senior housing that had concierge service. I call it the high side senior housing. We got $1.2 million from them for the Affordable Housing Fund. So that's how you mitigate the impacts that as best we can, and we'll continue to look for ways over the years to do that.
Now, what are your feelings about the lowered income eligibility legislation being considered for affordable housing? It's being considered. Is this good, or could it possibly be a way for developers to just pay their way out of doing it?
I think it's with balance on what is being approved. The largest complaint that I've heard from constituents when I'm out there and pounding the pavement is that the affordable housing, it's discounted luxury, and that it's still not attainable. The price is still high, and just so that people could appreciate the HUD standards. When I use the term AMI, I'm referring to area median income. You look at the yearly HUD standards. Currently, one person affordable at the 80% AMI is $65,000. So if you're working in the service industry, and we have a lot of that,
yes,
you can't afford it.
Yes.
And so one of the things that the funds would do, it will give the option of buying into, but we're also trying to lower the attachment point. The lowest currently was if you do 60%, then we got less units, as you know. So 60% took it down to $50,000. We're now taking it down one person to $41,000. But the key part of the fund, and I have been an advocate of this, is if we can get subsidized land costs, maybe, so that we don't have to have a luxury building, but have a good building, a decent building, an affordable building, and we're subsidizing that, so they're not looking at a discount on $2,600 a month rent, right? It could be a lower rent, something that working people can afford. Another thing is, I think it's important not just to have affordable rental housing, but affordable home ownership. And we have that at Minerva Place. But again, it's limitations. Perhaps we can help with down payment subsidies with respect to doing more of that as well. But again, the $1.2 million that we received well, we haven't received it yet, but it's part of the site approval. That's a start, and it allows us to think in these creative ways to deal with the issue.
Ladies?
I would say that a big part of our platform is affordability as far as housing goes for various stages of life and various income levels. Because what someone would consider affordable may not be affordable to somebody else. So a working person would not be able to afford it, in a luxury affordable housing unit. So I think that that is something that we are adhering to, and it's something that we will be fighting for, because that's how people can remain in the city that they love.
Right. Nice question.
I just put in a plug for those Common Council TV programs that you can access through the White Plains website. There was a working session on March 4th where there was almost a half an hour on the question of affordable housing and all the nuances and all the range of concerns and details that go into planning for affordable housing. I learned so much, and I was sitting at home watching it. So
that is really one of the great achievements of this administration,
Absolutely.
opening up
Yes.
televising work sessions.
Yes,
But it is a good achievement.
Absolutely.
yes.
Long
So
but uncommon.
plugging that.
Yes, indeed. Now, labor negotiations are beginning. Should White Plains continue to seek union members to pay more share of health costs and benefits, establish new tiers of retirement benefits for new hires to save on pensions now? What's your feeling on that?
I think it's been about 7 years now
Yeah.
that we've had union members contribute to the health care. And in the 7 years, that was part of reining in on costs. I don't see an increase to that. It's currently 15%. It's still less than the private sector, and that was important. And it was part of collective bargaining. In fact, there are going to be several contracts ratified on Monday for various unions. So it was part of the collective bargaining process. So I don't see it going up. On the ones that are coming up, CC is going to be ratified, PBA and Teamsters. So the fact of the matter
been
is
successful.
Exactly.
Right.
But the tiers are set by the state.
Yeah.
So we don't have control with respect to that. But I don't see right now, I mean, again, it's been going on for 7 years, an increase in that percentage.
Mm-hmm. Now, the sales tax receipts, which we mentioned at the top of the show, is a concern. We have declined for 6 of the last 8 months. Now, the question would be, you feel this is a Walmart effect, the loss of Walmart?
No, the sales tax has been anemic for the entire time I've been on the council. It's been overall anemic. And that is why what I talked about earlier about getting that foot traffic, getting people shopping and buying and stopping in the stores. We are competing with e-commerce. And one other thing that I have pressed at developers when they come before the council is that we're talking about, okay, we have to move towards an experience. The shopper wants an experiential retail. I know that I've heard from developers, millennials, and baby boomers, but I think they need to focus on families, right? You could do great things with experiential retail. People are going to iFly and Ridge Hills and various places, and Jim Barree's are going out further, and Billy B's, and it brings a lot of people from all over when you focus on places, because you know what? Millennials will have kids. Millennials are aunties and uncles, and they say empty nesters. Well, empty nesters would like some place to have to take their grandkids. And the fact of the matter is, we do have a lot of families. We're a city of neighborhoods, right? We have 20 plus neighborhoods circulate, and from all over Westchester.
Any developers
One
like that coming in?
One has, they expressed an interest on Post Road, the Post Maple Road, that corridor, because they're still looking for that anchor. You know, initially it was going to be a boutique sports. That's what their focus was, but now they're still looking. So one has, and I take that back. The Pavilion expressed an interest, but I haven't heard anything come of it. At that point in time, Lennar, they did express an interest, but I didn't see it in the site plan when they came back 2 years ago. But as one thing that people know, that I keep pushing.
Would we be thinking about a sales tax increase?
That's not on the table.
Not on the table at all. Now, you ladies didn't have a chance to comment on the labor question. Do you want to comment on that?
Sure. I feel that it's going to be very difficult whenever an increase in healthcare costs or benefits are introduced. Unless that is also going to come with a salary increase, it's difficult to have any negotiator reasonably say yes to that.
Of course.
So I think that it's something to be considered. Also, I want to note that many unions already have in place a sliding scale, and sometimes their sliding scale may change as part of negotiations when it comes to contributions as far as healthcare benefits go. So that's really the job of the chief negotiators, to be able to figure out what's going to be best for their membership as well, as part of a collective bargaining agreement.
It actually has to be a team effort between the two sides now, which apparently they've achieved, from what you tell me. Ms. Presser?
Well, I wanted to actually address the sales tax.
Yes, go ahead.
Because there's an additional way that perhaps we can be of help there, which is to encourage and support the wonderful restaurant scene in White Plains and the incredible range of ethnic restaurants. You know, there are so many wonderful places to eat in White Plains, and boy, you can't do that with a computer in your pocket. Well, maybe yes, you could order in, but food is something that is real, that you have to actually go out and get to.
Yes.
And that is, I think, a draw, and I
so
think
White
something
Plains
that,
Restaurant Week.
yes, we
Exclusively
have.
White Plains.
I would like that.
Forget this
I would.
county thing.
It's all about us, White Plains.
That's right. Now, we all live in White Plains and have our own parking strategies, but people who do not live here don't. Should White Plains think about making parking less aggravating and easier by revising parking policies in garages and whatever? What do you think?
I think that we've already have progressed in this area. I, for one, have found that the parking app for White Plains is significantly helpful, that you can use in garages or at meters and what have you. You can extend it. It's literally right at your fingertips, and I think that that's made it more easy and manageable. And I know that there has also been, I'm sure Councilmember Hunt Robinson can speak to this, but I know that they have also made different modifications as far as different holidays and have added some things. So I think they're consistently trying to make it less, as you said, aggravating.
Yes, my solution is a roll of quarters in the car.
Always.
I do that as well.
Yes, but I
$10
just,
roll.
this has been years,
$10 roll.
and I just thought of that the other day. We're so behind the times. So basically the answer is parking will continue, basically, you think? The way
I
it
think
is?
we'll. I mean, that's part of the things that we've done. If you look at some of the newer parking facilities behind Restaurant Row, for instance, the Longview one, it costs money to put those up, to maintain them. We look at the design of the newer ones. We were very concerned about transparency and glass and safety and all those issues. So it'll never be free. We have about 200,000 people that come in every day, sometimes a little more than that. And when you talk to the bid, the Business Improvement District. There's certain areas that they want the turnover, right? They don't want people just parking their cars there and leaving it. Because they want quick turnover, like the liquor stores and the other places, the restaurants. However, we'll always look for ways to make it better. We did, several of the council members and the mayor, we went to a smart parking presentation where as in part of the infrastructure of the city, people with their apps can get a sense of where parking is available and where it's not, so people aren't circling people and trying to wait on Mamaroneck Avenue, trying to slow down.
You have to be smart to park in White Plains. You have to be
so
smart.
there may be more tools on the horizon, and we're always going to be looking at those tools. I'm glad the app is working. Like you, I keep the quarters because sometimes with the app, depending on where I'm standing, the signal's not working, so I always have the quarters. But the app has been amazing because there's been meetings where I could discreetly extend my time, at a meeting.
Discretion is needed with smartphones at all times. Now, the red light camera situation, I understand that is working. We were getting up to break even on it, but even if it doesn't break even, would you all consider keeping it as a safety measure or doing away with red light
I always
cameras?
saw it as a safety measure. When we voted on the ordinance, it was never considered to be a revenue getter. I know there were people who felt that way, but the issue really was encouraging people. We didn't slip it in. We announced it. We told people where. Just stop. And again, the issue really was the people who were turning right on red, and the pedestrians. And now we're seeing more cyclists.
That has been refixed on Brian Mamaroneck. Any last words, very quickly, about the state of the city and what you want to tell the folks in White Plains?
White Plains has been a wonderful place to live and raise a family, and I would like to see that continue for all my friends and neighbors in White Plains.
Right.
I would say that I'm excited to be a part of the growth and success of this great city. And with the slate that we have, we really encompass the diversity that the city is and all the different communities and backgrounds. And I would encourage voters to realize how wonderful we all are and what we all bring to the table, and to continue the growth and success of this city.
Right.
I'm proud of the direction that our city is going. We're going forward, and we're going forward in a prosperous way, and we're going to continue making room for everybody, no matter what stage of life that they're in, no matter what income levels that they're in. There's room for everyone in White Plains.
Well, Nadine Hunt Robinson running for a second term on the Common Council. Jennifer Puja running for your first on the Common Council. And Victoria Presser, you have been heard. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you, John.
And good night.
Thank you.
For people to be heard.